Hi everyone, it's Michael, and if you can't already tell, this is a bloom profile video. And the subject of this video is this gigantic, absurd beauty, number 3 in my collection, my Wilsonara Aloha Sparks Halloween. So without a lot of lead-in, let's just go ahead and jump in. So history on this guy. This is a cross between a Cattleya, I always say these things wrong. I wanted to take a class on nomenclature because it really confuses me. An odontoglossum and an oncidium. So I actually got this one on March 18th of 2017, so over a year ago. This one survived a lot of mistreatment. Obviously it's one of the earlier ones in my collection, so this made it through a lot of mistreatment. But even through the mistreatment, this one behaved slightly differently. This one was always just fine. It just continued about its business. It continued on uninterrupted. It threw out roots like nobody's business. It had a very fabulous, easy adaptation to semi-hydroponics. The root system is just super, super expansive, and I'll take you in on that so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Now its root system is acclimating because we just made the transition from Colorado to California. So it is acclimating once again, but still you can see it has quite a large root system. Now, I will say that the leaves are a little wonky on this guy. And the reason for that is I mispackaged this when I shipped it to myself from Colorado. So if you guys haven't seen my packing and shipping my orchids video or my unpacking my orchids video, I'll link them both below. The leaves really took a hit with water spotting and bacterial rot, so I kind of had to maim them a little bit and clip away everything. What I didn't clip away in terms of the leaves that were damaged, I treated with hydrogen peroxide and cinnamon, and now it is well on its way to recovery, but that's why the leaves look the way that they do. Now let's talk about flower spikes. The flower spike will appear at the base of the newest pseudobulb, and each pseudobulb can produce 1 to 2 inflorescences. So I was somewhat surprised, especially given what a beautiful adaptation this had to semi-hydroponics, that it only gave me 1 flower spike. But that being said, it gave me 1 huge flower spike. Common knowledge and common practice says that the flower spike can range anywhere between 15 to 30 inches, and this one is actually just over 39 inches. This is a monster flower spike. And if you don't believe me, I took a very silly video of me measuring to prove it. All right, you guys, I wanted to measure exactly how large this plant is so you know that I'm not fibbing or exaggerating. So I've got my tape measure right here. I'm gonna pull out, I don't know, good 50 inches. And I want you to see exactly how big this guy is because it's such a giant plant and such a giant flower spike. All right, so I put the beginning of the tape measure just shy of the actual base of the plant. And when I pull it all the way out to here, it measures just over 39 inches. You guys, this flower spike is huge. It gives me so much anxiety to even touch it because I'm afraid it's just gonna snap. Oh geez. All right. You see, I find that men have a tendency to lie about things that they measure, so I wanted you to know that I was being very honest. So now let's talk about the blooms. So each flower spike can produce about 30 flowers. Now this one produced a total of 26. 2 of them bud blasted or got knocked off, I'm not quite sure which, in the process of transitioning from Colorado to California. But the blooms this time around are so much larger than the first time I got them. Now when I got them, it had tiny, maybe quarter-sized blooms. And this time it's bloomed, they're really quite sizable. And I talked about this a little bit during my orchid collection update, which I will link below. But I think because the year that I bought it, it was probably its first time blooming, and now that it's a more mature, more established plant, the blooms are bigger. So as this plant ages, the flowers do get bigger. I do think that will plateau shortly. I don't think they're gonna continue to get progressively larger and larger, but they do experience a little bit of growth and change in the size of the bloom from when they're first time bloomers to when they're more mature bloomers. Now let's talk coloration of the blooms. I think Trick or Treat is a really appropriate name for this orchid because it really is that autumn palette. It's that beautiful, deep, ambery red, and the labellum, the lip itself, has almost a gradient between this beautiful, Cheeto-y, Cheez-It color into a Dijon. It's just so, so pretty. Now I know I didn't describe that using the most elegant terminology, but it gives you a snapshot of what the colors look like. In terms of the fragrance, it really has no fragrance whatsoever. And I know that everyone thinks I'm crazy, but when I put my nose directly on it, I'm aware that I'm smelling a flower and not regular air. So it doesn't smell like nothing, but it is not a fragranced orchid. I would not say you would value it for its fragrant quality because it's not a fragrant orchid. So let's talk timeline, because I know that that's something that I'm always curious about and I tend to get a little hung up on. Now, this orchid really violated what I have come to expect from the orchids in terms of their gestation period. So on average, I've come to expect that my orchids, once I see the flower spike, will take about 1.5 to 2 months before they bloom. Now, this guy took almost a full 3 months because the flower spike appeared on January 11th of this year, and it didn't start blooming. It actually bloomed while it was in transit, which is kind of crazy, on April 9th. So that was almost a full 3 months. But I keep coming back to this. Look at the size of the flower spike. This one took forever because it just kept reaching and reaching and reaching. Obviously that's maddening because you just want to see the blooms once you see the flower spike. But I do think that the payoff was quite spectacular and worth it. Now, all that being said, I do think that this will bloom pretty consistently and pretty reliably about once a year. Now, if I were to let this grow to species size, because again, this is a relatively young orchid. It has 7 pseudobulbs, but let's say it has 20. I think I could see an increased frequency then because it is so hardy and it does grow so quickly and its root system is so vigorous. But I think that if you have an average size division, you can expect maybe once a year. I will notate exactly how long this stays in bloom, and I will update the video description to include that information once I find out exactly what it is. But for now, it has been in bloom since April 9th. It is currently May 5th. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. So we'll see how much longer this continues along, but I know that for the time being, I am absolutely awestruck, in love with this flower. In any case, thank you guys so much for choosing to spend your time with me. If you have any questions, concerns, or feedback, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to click subscribe and have a beautiful rest of your day. Mwah! Bye, guys.